Opening and closing is always such a weird, awkward thing to do. On especially you got the video rolling. You got to start the audio.
I know.
That's so silly.
Wow. Well, thanks, Alex, for making an opening for me.
Here we are. This is just
you just crushed it.
Just three buds hanging out.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's totally chill.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
Side note, I'll throw it
Alrighty,
out.
friends.
No,
Listen. Okay.
No, that was great.
That's it.
Mark, you don't cut it.
Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Roaster Warm Sessions podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you probably by now know and have heard we have Alex Sciarrotta.
You're very close.
Yeah,
you're very close.
What is it?
Sciarrotta.
Oh, gosh,
depending on who you ask. My family is just a couple generations back on that, so I trust the way that they're pronouncing it.
Okay,
yeah.
Lovely. Where does that come from?
That the Sciarrotta side is Italian, and then I'm also Armenian. So,
Wow.
but I don't bear my Armenian last name, just the Italian one, because you
Nice.
normally only have one of those.
Yeah.
Typically, it's not like a middle name.
Yeah.
You know.
What a little flex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Alex is a dear friend of ours, but also a fantastic coffee professional, and officially now the owner of Narrative Coffee.
That's what they're saying on the
Northwest.
streets.
I reckon.
Yeah.
I reckon.
No
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
And probably I say this all the time. Washington just doesn't have that much really great coffee in general. So I'm very confident in saying Narrative is probably one of the best cafes in the entire state. Like if you're in Seattle, it's worth the 20-30 minute rip up. If you're, I don't know, even down if you're in Olympia, even if you're even more south, just that's how good it is.
I
It's
appreciate
like,
we
it's
normally
stellar,
we get a
seriously.
lot of folks from Portland coming up.
Oh yeah, we get a lot of folks from all over. It's
Yeah.
it's really
Vancouver,
cool.
BC,
Folks are really
Portland.
kind to us.
Yeah,
It's pretty.
it's
It's
super sick.
it's pretty rad.
So we're just gonna have Alex on. You're just gonna talk about a bunch of awesome things that you're doing with Narrative, kind of some of the journey and the process that you've had becoming the owner of Narrative and all that jazz. But people who've been listening to the podcast, you guys already know.
We got to do some batchy.
Come on, Alex, you are a freaking
Hey.
natural. Who votes Alex to be the third host of the pod?
Dude, I got you guys.
can't
I'm up
wait
here
till
once a week.
Mason listens
Yeah.
to this episode, dude.
Oh, Mason,
Mason.
I miss him. I'm so excited for him and Erica.
Oh, it's gonna be.
Yeah,
That's
so soon.
it's so soon. I'm
Yeah.
bummed that I'm missing the wedding.
Yeah, me too.
Like I really wanted to go.
Yeah, me too. I traveled way too much in
Yeah.
recent history with how much is going on.
Did I tell you what coffee I brewed for batch?
No.
It's definitely not as good as the filters, for sure.
And definitely over extracted.
You think it's over extracted?
Yeah.
Dude, I went extra coarse on the grind size. Like way coarser than what we normally do for batch.
Tastes like you just could use a little more. Like, it's just a little like.
It's got a decent amount of pop. The astringency I'm getting is more
Yeah.
of an under extracted astringency to me. Personally.
Whoa.
I mean, I did go a lot coarser. That would make sense. What I went from.
And
All right, I'm gonna get out of frame for a minute. I went. We normally brew what at 11.5.
11,
Yeah.
5.
So I went to 11.8.
Dang.
About 50 in, and I also did.
A 1 to 16.
it's not like aggressively.
1:16.
It's not like aggressively off to my mind. It just could be.
But
better.
when I brew this coffee, especially at home, dude, my filters at home have been like going off. I brewed it this morning.
It's clearly a very delicious coffee.
Yeah.
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 I brewed it this
What is
morning.
this?
It's the El Ruby chorizo
El Ruby
from Prodigal.
chorizo.
Yeah, I
Chorizo.
love
Yeah.
love
Chorizo.
that coffee.
Keep saying
That's what it
chorizo.
tastes like. I'm getting notes.
Chorizo
I'm
on it.
getting notes of pretty for sure. Yeah, this is clearly very good coffee.
And maybe it's because. Maybe I'm saying that because my filters have been definitely much better.
They're so
Like comparing
tasty.
this with my filters that I've had of it, my
Yeah.
filters taste better.
Serving it behind bar has been awesome. It tastes awesome on espresso. It tastes awesome on filter. It's just such a delicious coffee.
Yeah.
I'll be sad when it's gone. This is the kind of coffee that I want to drink all the time.
I think this is my favorite Prodigal coffee.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
This
That
trumps,
I've had.
this
Yeah, that
trumps
I've
last year's La Argentina.
I think I had a special bond with La Argentina because that was the first coffee from Prodigal that I had. It was like on their debut release when you got those special baggies. So I was I was hyper stoked on it.
Yeah.
Dang.
But
Yeah, it was cool to see them come out, and they're doing a really good job.
yeah,
They're doing a really good job.
solid.
The team's great to work with. They're like super efficient, and then they're also not just saying that they're sourcing and roasting really well. They're actually doing it, which is really cool.
Yeah,
And they've been easy to work with. They've been great.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's been
which
a
is awesome.
pleasure.
I love that.
And they won the cupping now back to back.
Back to back.
Solid.
Yep, which is
Killing
super
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad we brought that up. Give us a quick little rundown for those who don't know narrative, which is probably just a few people out there.
Yeah.
What's that mean? They won the cupping. Give us a little rundown of that.
Yeah, we just every 2 months, barring a 2-month block of time where we have staff vote. During the staff vote time, folks on staff can pick from any roaster that has won the cupping in the past. And all that winning the cupping means is that we get roasters from all over the globe, typically really awesome roasters. You get a lot of the big names that you think of when you think of excellent coffee across the world is on our table. And we have somebody basically fill out a sheet to anonymize all of our roasters. They all get assigned a number, and then that same person grinds and sets up the cupping, and then I'll go through and grade every single cup with their roaster ID. So even though I might have seen, this person sent in a while back, or this person sent in, I try to not look at who all's there super seriously, so I don't have anything influencing my opinion. And then I just grade all of the cups on 10 points of criteria. And then that information is not only useful for us, but roasters can then go back and look at whatever notes that I have and see what at least we're tasting on our table. Our water is going to be different and that kind of stuff, but we'll taste everything, grade everything. It's on a different scale than like the SCA cupping, like green coffee scale, because the huge difference between what we're looking at and what you're looking at when you're grading green coffee is I not only have to see how good is this green that you purchased, but I have to then live with, because we're going to be serving it behind our bar, I have to live with however you roasted it. Mm-hmm. And so it's both grading how good the green quality is as well as how well you did with it. And a 0 on our cupping score sheet is effectively what would be a sub 80 on the green scoring sheet. And so a 0 would mean that we don't believe that it's actually specialty grade coffee. So if I get something that is clearly full of like a major defect or a bunch of minor defects or something like that, that's going to score 0s across the board. It doesn't mean that something that maybe isn't exactly my favorite isn't going to score super low just because of that. It's going to be a totality of quality of green and roasting matching up together. And then most of the people that end up winning the cupping end up scoring somewhere in like the mid 70s, and we'll typically live right around there. I think a couple times we've had some folks in the low 80s, but it's like 0 is non-specialty grade, 5 is what we would consider like an average specialty grade, both in green quality and in roasting, and then anything above 5 is above average. And so sometimes folks will get like a score of 65 and they're like, wow, I got clobbered in the cupping. I'm like, that's actually a pretty good score. Mm-hmm. Similar to like when Pitchfork gives somebody like a 6.5 or a 7, they're like, no, that's a good score. Yeah, and exactly. And they're like, wow, you roasted me. It's like, no, I'm not. It's actually, you did good. So yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of work. But it means that our team and our shops consistently get to serve the best coffees that are available to us. Folks are showing us a kindness by sending in coffees for us to taste. We're trying to offer back to them some feedback if they would like it. and which is valuable because most folks, you send in samples and you get something like, I liked it, or I didn't like it, or yeah, it was fine, or it was good, and that's about the amount of feedback that you get, rather than any sort of detailed feedback on each coffee you sent. And we'll say, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, or where it kind of stacked up against stuff. And
I mean, from like just speaking from a roaster's perspective, I think it's just such a solid way of just saying, just letting the coffee speak for itself, apart from the flashy bags, apart from any bias you may have. And it's just like, hey, do you suck at what you do, or are you good at what you do?
I'm way more interested in what's inside the bag than what's on 100%. The outside of the bag. And I love nice looking bags,
which I think most people would say that, but it's, in reality, usually we're not like, we don't actually live that way.
Oh, totally.
Unless you do something that blind and that kind of unbiased.
Absolutely.
And not only that, because it's blind, it also allows you to like be real and honest with the coffee.
Absolutely.
Like, instead of being like, oh, I don't want to say something bad because I'm either friends with somebody, or I have respect or regard for this person, then it's just like, hey, I didn't even know. I just scored it like the other 10 roasters on the table.
Yeah. Yep. I think the other part of it is also, we're not necessarily or you're not necessarily grading coffees to determine whether someone is like, whether this is a good or bad coffee. We're also partially grading coffees for like our style of service.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
our preferences are baked in. There's no way to absolutely do it unbiased. We're trying to do it the most unbiased possible. And then on our site that details like when our cupping is, all the criteria, all that kind of stuff, we try to state our biases. It's like, we like coffees that taste like this. These are the kinds of coffees that are going to score high with us. And like a little secret for everybody that is sending in, if you happen to watch this, send your best coffees. Since we're not the same as like every other wholesale account, in the sense that we don't necessarily need to get a super good feel for your whole menu holistically. Like, a lot of people want to send, a couple chill coffees, a couple really nice coffees, because you want to show range for most accounts. But for us, the way to do the system is to just send your most delicious coffees, and really your 4 best gives you the best odds, because if you send more than 3, because you have to send a minimum of 3, your lowest scoring coffee drops from your score. That's kind of like a control point. Like, if you were to happen to send a coffee from Burundi, it has potato, and you sent over 4, it's a control point to go, this isn't going to tank your whole score, which is a kindness to one extent or another. I think it makes it more fair.
Yeah. And like for us,
what's up?
What happened?
What's on
what
your
did
brain,
I miss?
dude?
Burundi, potato, French fries. Like, what are we talking
French
about?
fried
here?
potato.
Alex, what do you have against potato flavor notes?
Potato flavor. What do I have against potato flavor notes?
What do you think about like a coffee with high clarity in potato?
High clarity of potato.
Like high clarity, high intensity.
Well, it's normally raw, crispy potato that we're tasting in a coffee, and I don't want that kind of clarity of flavor. That's not the flavor I want loud and clear in my cup of coffee, personally.
Okay, side note, Mark and Alex, I'm gonna derail us for a minute. Can we pause this whole coffee talk and really discuss like 2 things? 1, tater tots or French fries, and 2nd, your favorite French fry in the United States.
Whoa.
Fast food or just in general?
In general.
God. Okay.
So first, tater tots or French fries?
Am I just out and about? I've never been to this place, and I don't know what kind of experience I'm going to get.
Yeah, sure.
I'm probably going tater tots. Tater tots are way, way more consistent across the board and like being pretty good. Fries are super hit or miss. Comparatively, they're either like really tasty or kind of suck. Yeah. And tater tots for the most. I mean, I got my favorite tater tot. I asked This is the dumbest thing ever. I asked the person serving us one time, I was like, how are the tater tots? And they go, they're crispy. And I was like, for sure, I'll take the tater tots.
Yeah, sick, dude.
And I was cracking up because they're like, they're tater tots. I don't know. But favorite like fry in the States, I probably give that to Zigzag. I love Zigzag's fries.
Oh, where's that?
It's a bar down. It's like underneath Pike's Market.
In Seattle.
Effectively.
Sick.
Yeah, Zigzag's like OG in the cocktail scene. Their food's super good. Their cocktails are good. They're fun to watch work. The whole place is like a total vibe. They've been there for like 30 years. They're
sick.
dope. They're dope.
Cool.
I love their fries.
Yeah.
I love their fries. Their burger's good.
Sick.
Their food in general is good.
I mean, this is also a controversial one. Dick's fries, like Dick's Drive-In,
Yeah.
or In-N-Out.
Oh, Dick's fries are better than In-N-Out's fries.
Anything's better than In-N-Out fries.
Wait, what? Really?
Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Yeah.
I've only been to In-N-Out once, and that was I was actually quote unquote vegan.
I'm kind of with Mark here.
Oh,
It's like In-N-Out's,
sorry,
In-N-Out's
some-
fries are pretty bad.
They're some
Really?
of the worst.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Are they the straw fries? I don't remember. Are they the thin kind of straw-like fries?
I'm kind of afraid because I think we might have lost some followers. 'Cause I know.
I love In-N-Out.
I
I love In-N-Out.
Hey,
Their fries are like edible.
yes, yes.
Their fries are edible. I'm not choosing them for the most part. I'm there for the burger.
100%.
Yeah.
I'll give them that. I'll take a burger, but
Yeah.
Wait, do they compare to Accomplice's fries? You know Accomplice? Have you
dude.
been to Accomplice?
no,
In Bellingham?
dude, no,
No?
what? No.
Do you like their Accomplice fries?
In-N-Out is like their fries are probably some of the worst.
No,
Like,
no. I mean style,
general.
not flavor. Style-wise, are they the thin, kind of stringy kind of
No,
fries?
no. They're just like normal, like
Like
fast
McDonald's?
food, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the In-N-Out's fries taste like if you took everything, or you squeezed out all of the things that you loved out of a Lay's potato chip. And
That's objectively
and
awful.
Yeah, it's just
So
like
bad.
there's something off about them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they just rub me the wrong way.
Yeah,
I'm
whether you
just-
get them well done or you don't get them well done, if you slather them like animal style and get the cheese and onions and sauce on there,
Yeah.
it's
Like
like they're
poutine.
fine.
Okay.
They're
gotcha.
they're fine.
All right. Speaking of fries,
You just made Keith Lee proud.
listen.
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of fries, so Narrative not only serves exceptional coffee, but you guys have a food menu.
Yeah.
Give us a little explainer. What are you guys doing food wise?
Yeah, everything's from scratch. Pretty much, we make pretty much everything there that we feasibly can. Bread is effectively the only thing that we don't make, and we make biscuits. We make like hand laminated biscuits in house, but we make pretty much everything down to the sauces and everything except for ketchup. I'm going to go on record. I think ketchup is objectively awful. I hate it. We have it as a hospitality move. But I think there is literally no point in making ketchup when Heinz 57 exists. Yeah. If you're going ketchup, that's what you want. But we make everything in house. We try to just serve like super good, fresh, tasty breakfast food. We have like a short format, like lunch style menu, that again, everything's fresh and prepped out every day, and tasty ingredients. That's less a focus than our straightforward breakfast program. My good friend started the program 6 years ago or so. She's no longer with us, which is sad. But miss her. But yeah, it's great food. It's like we're trying to do an excellent version of anything that we put on the menu. Yeah. Like when folks come in and ask the classic question of what's good on the menu, I always have to, because like I understand why somebody's asking that question, because most people just throw stuff on the menu to fill holes, and I understand the idea of filling a hole in your menu, but you want to do it intentionally, and you want to be proud of whatever you're putting on there. And so I don't feel like we have any like skips on the menu or things that I'm like not really stoked on. There's stuff that I personally gravitate towards more, and I normally tell folks it's like it depends on what kind of mood you're in. Like I'm very much a mood eater, where it's like I'm in the mood for this thing, or I'm not in the mood for that thing, and I'm in the mood for this other thing. Similar to coffee, it's like you know what it's like to wake up and you're like, I do not want to drink a natural this morning.
Exactly.
Or I really would like a fruit bomb presently. I need that in my face right now.
I gotta say, like, one thing, I was never into hollandaise and like bennies until Narrative.
Oh, because most hollandaise is trash.
I just like I had
Most
an
people's
aversion to hollandaise,
so bad.
and I just had some bad experiences.
Yeah.
And then I had the Narrative Benny and Everett, and I was just like, oh,
It's
I
like
could
this is
actually
good.
F with this. This is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good hollandaise
Yeah.
is delicious.
Yeah. Totally.
Bad hollandaise is gross.
Awful.
It's really it's really bad.
So I think one of the like, I think again, like on the record, like I think Narrative is one of the best cafes in the state.
Thank you.
And how long have you been working at Narrative?
About 6 years.
About 6 years. Now.
We've been open about 6.5 years. I was hired within the first year of us opening, and I think I accidentally came into the Everett Cafe the first day. My sister knew Max, the founder. You guys have had Max on the podcast. Obviously, you know Max. Knew him from back when he was at the Cow. I had been to the Cow, but I didn't know Max. And so she was there supporting him day one, and I went to go pick my sister up from there and got a cup of drip and headed out with her. And then I was like, I actually really like this place. This place is cool. And then I started hanging out there a lot. I was in school at the time, and I was working like 3 jobs. And so on downtime, whenever I could, I would try to get out of the house and do schoolwork there. And got to know the staff, and had never worked food service or coffee or anything like that beforehand. And so I had like never ever entertained the idea of working there. I was always mostly really just like digging holes and lifting stuff for a living, or building things. And I had like a string of injuries. I've always been like semi-injury prone since I was young. Like the first time I broke my leg, I think I was less than 2 years old. Wow. That's the first time I broke my leg, and I've had multiple different injuries over time, of various varieties. But anyway, I was on a stint where I was out of work, and I was for the first time considering maybe I'm not going to work a trade job because I've got a family to support and I can't be out of work like this. I need to find something that's maybe not super easy on my body, but easier on my body than I'm what I'm doing now.
And this was 6 years ago.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
Because just considering, like, I'm just going to quick little interrupt, because just considering the fact that happened like 6 years ago and now you are where you are today, that's a trip. That's pretty fast.
Life is
like
weird.
Expedited. Yeah. I was going to say, like, one
weird.
visit to a cafe all of a sudden ended up changing the next 6 years of your life.
Oh, totally.
And all of a sudden you're doing now what you're doing. And not just, you're just a cafe owner. Like, you guys are doing freaking cool stuff.
Yeah. Totally. I always have felt spoiled because my first proper like food industry or coffee job just happened to be an excellent place to get a job. And that was super lucky, you know what I mean? Because I was interested in coffee before. I had always been interested in coffee. I actually grew up in a house where my parents hated coffee. They thought it was disgusting. And my dad's come around a little bit, and my mom has thought about coming around, but she's more stubborn about it. And just no, like, coffee was kind of just trash talked, and which now thinking back, I understand why, because what they had tasted was bad. And But I started getting interested in coffee from a pretty young age. I was the first like coffee drink that I was all stoked on. Every once in a while, my parents would like drop me off at a youth group back in the day, and so somewhere in the zone of like 6th grade, I was like, I'm gonna roll over to that coffee thing and see what this coffee thing's about. And I tasted it, and I was like, whoa, one, that is laser hot, and also that tastes bad. So then I was like, what do I do to fix this up? And so I grabbed like a Swiss Miss packet, put it in there, and then just like a little bit of creamer, and I was like, delicious. This is great.
Coffee, hot
and then
chocolate.
by the time I was about in 8th grade, from there, a couple years, I was just drinking drip and enjoying it, and ended up figuring out a way to make some money. I can't remember if it was like something I asked for as a Christmas present, or if I tried to figure out how to buy like a Mr. Coffee pot so I could have coffee in my, and then I'd buy whatever was on sale at Safeway or whatever. And then I started figuring out that the times that I bought the ones on sale, the ones that were labeled light roast, I liked more, and I didn't know why I liked them more, but I did. And then the first time I ever got like intrigued to figure out like brewing at home, funny enough, I was born in the mid 90s, but I have never been like a super technologically adept person, and so I had no clue that any sort of coffee education was potentially available online, and I remember I loved watching food shows when I was younger. There was this one episode of Alton Brown on Good Eats, and he talked about coffee that episode, and he's always explaining stuff. And the only thing I retained was that whirly wheel grinders suck, and that burr grinders are good. And I found this like one of those burr grinders that have the open top, twist, and there's a little drawer underneath at Goodwill. And I was like, I'm going to clean this thing up and mess with this, and I'm going to buy whole coffee and start checking that out, and started messing with the grind size. I was like, oh, what's this for? Oh, I can change how coarse or how fine it is. I wonder how that's going to change it. And had no clue what I was doing, but ended up basically just figuring out how to dial in at home. And started making like the best coffee I had ever made. I was like, this coffee's great. It's like, and thinking back, it's like I had kind of figured out how to dial it in. It's now freshly ground rather than pre-ground in a can. I'm figuring out more where my flavor preferences lie. And then every once in a while I grew up pretty poor, so I very rarely was going out at the time, but every once in a while I would stop into like a local coffee shop and get like a drip coffee. And I found some cafes that I was like, I am not about this. And then other cafes that I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And come to find out, those cafes were trying really hard to do what we like to do.
What do you think, like, starting 6 years ago, knowing a little bit of that context now, that background, and then 6 years later, like competing in barista competitions pretty regularly, latte art throwdowns, owning narrative, like, what's that journey been like? But especially more specifically, like, what have you learned about like sustaining quality on a very high level, sustaining excellence, using a little bit of that curiosity of like you just freaking figuring out how to dial in on crusty little grinder that you picked up, like just that whole trajectory, but also the fact that you're competing and now you own narrative and all this stuff, like in the scope of like really excellence and driving quality. What's that journey been like?
It's been weird. I think about it a lot of times, just like backing up from like a more just like grand scheme of things perspective, I think about just what life looked like 6 years ago, 10 years ago. It's like, life was so different. I mean, I've watched, in 10 years time, I have gotten married and had 2 kids and watched them grow up. And now I've got a 3rd grader and a kindergartner that I'm raising. And my 3rd graders, like almost 5 feet tall, and they're their own little people and all this kind of stuff. And I've started a career that I wasn't expecting to start, and ended up in places that I wasn't anticipating or looking for, honestly. I didn't know, I had like heard whispers around barista competition, through narrative specifically, because that was a thing that Max has done for years. And my sister told me about that. And I was like, that's crazy. Baristas go out and they compete, and like, what's going on there? That's crazy. Like most people think whenever they hear about that. And yeah, I went to support for my first competition within 6-7 months of being in coffee for the first time. I went to support Josh and Max that year, and then made it into Coffee Fest for the first time less than a year after doing it. And I've always been generally competitive person, and also generally somebody who, if I'm going to do something, I really want to do it well. And when there's something that I find actually interesting, or like I feel like there's a lot to learn, which I think coffee is like there's so much to learn from so many different aspects, especially both from a hospitality perspective, a quality perspective, just a deep history of we've got a product that is all over the world, that is a commodity that people trade. There's been a history of trying to improve quality across the board. There's been some really dark history. There's just a ton to learn, which is really cool. And I get super fascinated by that kind of stuff, and I love learning, and I've always loved learning. And if I'm going to spend a decent amount of time on something, I don't have any interest in being subpar at it, at all. And it's not from I want to be better than this guy, or I want to be better than that person, or whatever. It's just for myself, I don't like, I ended up dropping out of college because I went into a pretty dark brain space and could no longer give my all to school and carry the kind of work that I'm proud of. And so I dropped out, and my professors were frustrated because I was still turning in fully acceptable work. And I was like, I'm not proud of it. I can't do this anymore. And so getting into coffee, it was just like, I put in a ton of hours figuring out what to learn, trying to find the best sources of information. I tend to ask people that I trust, that I trust are going to point me in a good direction of where to go. Try to decipher what's going to be the best kind of bang for your buck. Like if I'm going to spend time on something, you guys know how it is to like read a book and feel like that was a total waste of my time. I don't like doing that. And so I try really hard to not do that. And have just tried to maximize my time learning, and put in a ton of time both at the shop and on off hours trying to figure this stuff out. And I mean, the funny thing is I never ever intended to own a coffee shop. I never intended to owning narrative was never even a thought in my brain. And then starting another shop is something that multiple people tried to ask, because you guys know how it is. You get excited. You're like, you're feeling good. It's just like if you're in church and it's like you got an excited young person, it's like you're going into ministry. And that's what people do in a lot of different industries, and in coffee specifically, it's like, oh, when are you going to start your own thing? It's like, I have no interest in starting my own thing. Right. It wasn't coming from a place of, I don't like the idea of going into that, or that sounds scary, or whatever else. It was from a standpoint of, I really believe in what we're doing here, and I happen to land a really good thing to start. I really believe in what we're doing here, and I want to continue to be as helpful in what we're doing and grow this thing for as long as I can make this viable. And that's
so you should actually speak to that, because I think oftentimes this is what I hear a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I'm assuming the same. So like, there's always this notion of like, if you're a barista at a cafe, the next step is just to go and start your own coffee shop.
Yeah, or go into roasting or go into next
versus like somebody like you, who I love that you brought that up, is like, no, you're just at a shop that you freaking love working at, that's doing everything that you would probably naturally do yourself for the most part. And how the thought of you starting your own thing was like, what's the point? A little bit of like, what's the point? Speak to that a little bit. Like, should people prioritize finding a place that really aligns with their values, or should people just go dive head deep into starting this crazy thing we call coffee shops?
I hate, because everybody's situation is different, so I hate giving perfectly general advice. Out of those two, if I was going to give general advice, I would definitely recommend, as a broad stroke for most people, finding a place that aligns with your value set and does a really good job and you're going to be able to learn from is almost 100% of the time going to be the superior choice than just trying to start something on your own.
And why?
Most of the time, especially if you have not been able to be as fortunate as I was to get a job or a gig at a really good spot, there's a lot of stuff that you don't know, even if you think you do know stuff. And you have like a lot of stuff baked into you that are actually really bad habits. Like when I get somebody, we don't particularly hire for like a resume. This is kind of a sidebar. We don't hire for a resume necessarily. We are looking for somebody who's going to be like a really good cultural fit, and then basically somebody that we think is going to like care enough to work hard and be good at their job. They don't need to care as much as me. They don't need to care as much as somebody else that's stoked. Coffee doesn't need to be their lifelong passion, but they need to care enough to do a really good job and work hard at what they do, because we care a lot about what we do. And the biggest thing I go to look for when I've got somebody who has barista experience and I'm bringing them behind our bar is, what bad habits do you have ingrained into you? Like, because I'm almost certain that you're going to have several. And without fail, every single time I'm seeing bad habits, whether it's something that's going to hurt their body in the long run, whether it's something that's going to impact quality, whatever else. And so I find it tremendously valuable to try and put in time and try to work with people that really know what they're doing and really care about what they're doing. And I just happen to be fortunate enough to not only start somewhere where the person that owned the place cared a ton, but several people on staff were like lights out stoked about what we were doing. We had a really special team. And so I was very fortunate. And so I can understand me being in a different situation, feeling like, oh, I do want to start my own thing. I could totally understand that feeling. But I think that from my perspective, it was more around, I pretty much see eye to eye and looked into like what narrative valued, and also had experienced it firsthand on a nearly daily basis for most of a year, of what the place valued, what it cared about, what they did, all this kind of stuff before I came on staff, to where I was like, I buy into this. I see things really similarly to this. And so it would have felt ingenuine for me to go and try and start my own thing when I already really believed in what we were doing. The differences of opinion were really minor, not major. And so getting to be around a team of folks that care a ton, that you can learn a lot from, is one, not something that everybody has access to, even if they have a shop near them that happens to be that way and that they respect in that way and align with. They might not always be able to get a job there. And I mean, speaking from my perspective, even in my good situation, the reason I had the caveat of like, as long as I can make it work, I have no interest in going anywhere else, is because it's like I got 2 kids and I've been the primary income for my family for a long, long time, and making money in coffee wherever you're at, unless you're on the total upper echelon, whether you're a business owner or you're a manager or you're whatever else, we're making coffee money. We're not making tech money. It's not the same ballpark. I mean, obviously, if you just spent the last 30 years or whatever building La Colombe, or I guess they bought it a little while ago.
Yeah.
From the building.
Yeah,
But
3x on the sale. Yeah.
That stuff is rare. That is super far and few in between. Most people that I know that they care about their staff, that are business owners. They're barely making it. I'm barely making it. And I know Max was before me. And that going to start your own thing, honestly, the reality of the situation is you got to find people that are going to support you and going to be there for you. And you better be damn sure that you're going to be able to make it work, because it is hard. There's not a lot of money in it. It costs a lot up front, and it continues to cost a lot, and there's not a lot of money left over. It's very, very, very difficult. But if you love it sincerely, try to find some folks that you care about, that you care about what they're doing, you respect it, learn from them. And if you still are like, this is what I want to do, I understand that it's not everything's going to be rosy, then do the thing. Yeah. But again, that comes back for me, is if I'm going to do something, I don't want to not be able to be proud of it. Yeah. There are ways that narrative could be a lot more profitable than it presently is, if we cared less about the quality of product that we source, for example, or cared less about making sure that everybody got a break or felt supported on staff. Everything is not going to go perfect all the time. Every once in a while you have a messy day, but it's a matter of, like, we care about those things, and that stuff costs a lot of extra money over time, and it leaves a lot less room for
I mean, I can definitely attest to that. One, like, working with you as the owner of Narrative, like, some of the things that I've noticed is your desire to make sure that Narrative is, like, profitable and sustainable comes from a perspective that you want to make sure that everyone is taken care of on our team. Yeah. And in order for us to do that, we have to think of a way to grow the business.
Absolutely.
Right? And if we grow the business and expand, then we get to support more people.
I mean, that's my primary goal.
Yeah,
with trying to, like, you can't take care of your people well unless you run a good business. Yeah, because you have to. You can be good to people in a sense of you're not being a jerk to them. Yeah. That doesn't cost you anything, and everybody should be good to their people as best as, especially in the places that it's free. But at the end of the day, all of us got to survive. We've all got to take care of ourselves. And I'm coming at it from a perspective of, I've been an employee of this company for the last 6 years, and Max tried really hard, but it's hard. What we're doing is hard. So where I'm setting goals as far as moving our business forward is with our people in mind, to be able to try to build better lives across the board for the folks that are choosing to spend their time with us, at whatever level that they're coming in at, whether they're somebody that's tremendously invested, they've been there for a long time, or it's just going to be one of the better, like, entry level jobs they've ever had, and then they're going to go somewhere else at a different time. I want their experience at whatever level they're getting to be as good as we can do at that present time. And we're going to continue to get better at it over the years. And I want to shoot for that. But
I mean, one of the things, like, when Micah was part of the Narrative team and now the present owner of, like, Cafe Blue, that's a very good example of that.
So cool.
And I think a lot of people have a hard time talking about things such as, you know, profit margins and making sure that businesses are making money, because it comes, a lot of the times people feel like it comes from a very selfish perspective.
Oh, totally.
And sometimes it does. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it totally does. A lot of times it does.
Yeah, but I think for us, especially like at Narrative, we've talked about this from the perspective of like, how do we get to support people where they're at in their present tense. So if someone walks in and gets a job at Narrative and they're like, hey, I need a healthy work environment. I need to be able to create a sustainable lifestyle for where I'm at. Maybe you're a college student and you need, you know, this job in this moment, but then you don't even know that, you know, you want to be in coffee for the rest of your life. You still need support. And one of the things that I've witnessed us at Narrative do is we've been able to support people in their journey. Like, and another person I think about is how, you know, Trey came onto our team. Zero coffee experience, zero anything. We taught him all the coffee knowledge we had that we could deposit to Trey. We did.
And just a handful of months.
Exactly.
As much as we could in that time.
So we didn't only support him like with a wage. We supported him with a skill and a knowledge to when he had a situation when he had to move down south to Mississippi, he was able to take what he learned here and bring it to a cafe there and get a job there.
Yeah, totally.
But he's also like super passionate about snowboarding. You know what I mean? So to be able to support him, one, in his career, but also in his passion, like through snowboarding, like that's kind of why we want to grow Narrative and see Narrative be a successful business, because we get to support baristas like that. Yeah. But then the reverse side of that is also like, if we're a sustainable business as a cafe, then we're able to source more coffee from roasters such as Prodigal, such as Manhattan, such as like anyone who wins that cupping. And if we get to support them, then they get to support producers who they buy green coffee from. Yeah. So I think a lot of the times we have to understand that talking about these ideas of, one, profitability and margins and all of that is, on the grand scheme of things, the way we sustain the industry as a whole. Yep. And that's very crucial. If we want good, tasty coffee 10 years down the road, if my daughter, your kids want tasty coffee down the road, we have to think of it now. Yeah. That's the way we do that.
Absolutely. And if I want something for our staff long term that we don't have, which is several things, then I have to think now and plan now of how we're going to get to a place with that goal in mind. Because if it's something that's going to cost us money, and especially if it's going to be something that's going to repeatedly cost us money year over year, the money's got to be there to do it. And so we've got to figure out how to get to that point so that we can then stomach that, or we make the decision, to a poor decision, and go, oh, but in an ideal world, we would have that thing, and so we're just gonna send it, and then none of us have a job in a couple months because we made a really bad decision doing that, even though I want to. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to sign up for this thing that's going to benefit us or whatever else. But I need to make sure also that it's something that we're going to be able to sustain and carry through the years, or none of us are going to have a job in a few months. Yeah. And that's hard. It's hard. It's hard to, being somebody who wants the best and wants all these things and wants to take care of people really well, while also grappling with the reality of the system that we're in, with the industry that we're in. There are just harsh realities where, you know what, it's like, I want that too. I'm so sorry that we can't do that right now. Yeah. I feel you more than you know, probably, and need to believe me, honestly.
What do you like? I'm curious what you'd say is, like, you mentioned like Maxwell built something up, all these, the system of how you guys run Narrative, source coffees, how you guys take care of people and all that. I'm curious, how do you feel about the difference between starting something from scratch, from fresh, or taking over a cafe or cafes that already have a really good system that you just need to optimize for, and just make it run better, versus starting something from from scratch that's like everything you've ever dreamed of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I I think that makes perfect sense. Again, I'm in a semi-peculiar situation in the sense that I have gotten to play a role in building the culture and the systems and all that kind of stuff in the company that I ended up purchasing. So that's a little bit different than being somebody from the outside looking in at something that you respect and coming in and doing that. But I think there are positives and negatives, and you learn a lot of different stuff either way. The kind of stuff that Max originally went through, or anybody else doing similar stuff with building out the Everett Cafe and whatnot, is not something that I had firsthand experience, have yet to have firsthand experience doing. I probably will in the future, but I don't yet. And then inversely, what I had to do and try and go through and all this kind of stuff, Max never experienced that end of things. And you learn a lot of different stuff. You come at it from a little bit of a different perspective. Me being within the culture, going from an entry-level barista with no experience, working to be part of like a key player on our team, and then working into management, and then helping to improve both the Everett Cafe, and then helping along the lines of like helping train Sergi and set up systems for him to be healthy, and try to actually help Max to be healthier, because we're starting to expand and he's going to be spread more thin, so he can't have his hands in everything, and building systems for that, trying to maintain a healthy team culture and communication and that kind of stuff. And then going into, going back to the sustainability of working in coffee long term, it's like right before Max approached me to talk about this, I was at a crossroads where I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to maintain keeping my family afloat in coffee. Still tenuous now, but really even more so then, primarily just with internal stuff in our household. But I was managing our Everett Cafe, and picked up a job bartending with some awesome folks. I landed the best possible job if you're going to be in that situation. Wonderful folks down at Liberty. They're amazing. And in the city, but I was working 70 plus hours a week. And then my time spread was I was waking up at 5:30, 6 in the morning to go open and close the shop, and then oftentimes be there an hour or sometimes 2 hours after close, and then I'd drive down to Seattle and be there until 3 a.m. and then drive back home and effectively take a nap and wake up and do it all over again multiple times a week. And I did that. I started that job a couple months before Max had sat me down, and then worked through the majority of I started in December of not last year, but the year prior, right at the beginning of December, and then worked through last year, end of June. And I was doing both of those things and trying to figure out, Max sat me down in January, and just trying to figure out how to make it work and restructure things and get ahead and get in a spot where, I'm not a super money driven person. I just got to be able to take care of myself and take care of my family is really what matters to me at the end of the day. And the reason I stayed doing what I was doing at Narrative is because I loved it, not because I made more money doing it or whatever else. It's like you make a decent amount of money bartending at a good bar. And I loved that job too, but I just love what we're doing at Narrative, and I didn't want to go anywhere. Whereas I could have made the decision, prior to Max sitting me down and going, you know what, this is going to be a lot easier on me and my family, and I'm going to be able to still make what I need to make. And so I'm just actually going to skip, be done, and go do this other job, which I could have done. But I didn't, because I love what we're doing. And then I did not even remotely imagine that this is where I was going to be at this time this year. that was not even remotely in view. Because again, I just wanted to be able to ride out a storm, like a financial storm, and then continue to help building narrative to make it be the best version of what it is. And now I'm just doing that from a different seat than I was expecting to. So
like episodes like these, I wish I could just like every single person that is even thinking about starting a coffee shop, I wish I could be like, this is a requirement. You do not get a business license until you watch this episode. And then once you do, then you can move on to the next stage.
What's crazy is I mean, for the most part, I nearly feel like I've been just rambling, but it's a matter of there's just so much there.
Yeah, of course.
There's so much there. There's so much to think about. And there's so much that, I mean, looking back, it's like you learn so much, and you learn so much along the way, and you're never going to feel perfectly prepared, but ideally you're walking into something more prepared than not.
Yes.
And you're going to have to learn certain things along the way, and it's tough. I mean, you guys know how it is. You guys have been running for 4.5 years now, something like that. And it's tough. It's tough, but it's worthwhile if you really love what you're doing.
Right.
And that's meaningful to me. And spaces like our cafes, spaces like any food, beverage, restaurants, that kind of thing, they're places that add a lot of meaning to the world. And you guys sending coffee out to folks, and it adds a lot of color into daily life, and matters. And I love it. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. Also, at whatever level, it's totally okay. But yeah, I'm grateful to be a part of this thing. Grateful for y'all.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking forward to where narrative goes, whenever narrative does.
Me too.
I'm hopeful. I think there's some tasty and some great things up ahead.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm really excited.
Serge, any last thoughts?
For sure, because like we could go on talking about stuff like forever.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't
because
live too far.
I think right. I think there's a lot of groundwork that we've, like, the three of us have done. One, like, I've known you for a while. Like, I like literally met you through a YouTube video, and I remember coming into the Everett Cafe, and you came and sat on your break, and I sat next to you, and I was like, "Oh, that's the guy."
It's so hilarious,
it's hilarious
to me.
right?
The world is so weird.
It's so weird. But even like going from there to, I remember you coming over and hanging out at the house with me, and we were talking about coffee, and I was itching for more and trying to understand, like, hey, where's my coffee career going? And having you be like, you know, that's interesting that you want this, and that's interesting that narrative offers this. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you did know, but the backstory to all of that is the fact that I remember when Max was on another podcast and was sharing about the cow, and then shared about the possibility of this cafe called Narrative opening up, and then me talking to Mark and be like, yo, you need to go to Everett and check out this cafe. It's going to be absolutely stellar. Yeah. So it's always like, that was when I lived in Florida. Yeah. Right. So this idea of what I believe in a cafe should be like kind of like made like manifest in this embodied version of what narrative and who narrative is, was a dream of mine, like to be part of it from like years ago. And then to see how narrative embraced me and brought me onto the team and allowed me to do what I believe in, even from even to the point of like this last year where I competed in Cup Tasters, I competed in Brewers Cup, with you supporting me and the company supporting me and creating this place where I could pursue my dreams, but also could make a living and also could like holistically be myself in every form, is like super, super special. And you don't see a lot of that in this world, because a lot of the times it's things are like either driven by one side. It's either you make a lot of money and you have a like crappy, I almost swore on the podcast, experience, or you are like, man, I just want to paint for a living and I'm like dirt poor kind of
Yeah.
thing. And to be able to experience kind of holistically like a good full-blown experience of living your dreams and being able to support myself has been absolutely stellar.
Yeah.
So like I'm super grateful for that, and it's been an honor, like one, working with you and seeing you pursue your dreams, but then also being able to sit down with you and like dream about, okay, what does narrative look like next year, 3 years and 5 years and 10 years, and what's the potential there. So totally dope.
Got to think about it long term if you're in this for a while.
For sure.
Planning to be anyway. I feel the same, man. This honor goes both ways.
Thank
Appreciate you. Yeah. So,
Let's go.
what's
Come
up, Mark?
on.
How's it going? All right.
Yeah. That's good. Well, thanks, Alex, for taking some time to jump on the podcast.
Thanks for having
It's
me.
been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I'm sure pretty positive we'll probably have you on sometime again
I'd love that.
to talk more about other stuff and,
Yeah, talk about
We
more
all
interesting
grew.
things than me. That'd be great.
Yeah.
inoculated copies.
Better listening experience.
Oh, this is great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Coffee Roaster Warm Sessions podcast. And we'll just close it out like we always do. Remember, folks, reflect. Oh, gosh, I forgot that for a second.
I think it's stay thirsty, my friends.
Stay thirsty. There it is, folks. That's it.
Reflect. That's good.